All right, there we are with Step Pope, Richard, Robert, subjecto change.
Subject to change.
Oh, subject to change. I was thinking it was like subjecto change or something like that.
It's missing a T, but that's fine.
I put it in there on my own and I didn't charge for it. So, see? It was a free T and everything. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Good News. Oh, wait. No, that's every day, isn't it? It's good news every day, but on Sundays, it's the good word. And so,
yes,
we are here, and I've got a couple of people here to talk with us. Step Pope Richard and Robert, but we don't really know what he is yet, so it's subject to change. We'll find notification later on, I guess. Right, Robert?
Sure.
So...
I just got rid of the echo.
Oh, you just got rid of the... Yeah, and everything. I told the kid out there to log in just so we have some viewers, and some of the other people were going to log in, but they're not here yet. If they show up, that's great. But basically what we're going to talk about on this thing as we talk about the concepts of the cult, what the cult is, how we do things, how we interact with the world, what's going on in the world, how much we've been drinking because of the world this last week, how soon before I start smoking again because nothing else matters, you know, basic stuff like that. So I'm Michael, and currently I am I don't know, what do you call me, Richard?
Late for dinner?
No. What's like my position or something like that?
Chief cook and bottle washer. El Gran Queso.
You know, did you know I actually put that up on my profile at work? On
Chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah. I put down on the software licensing page. I put down Emily was like the head of enterprise license management, and Sarah was like, you know, the sales. And I put under mine, I said head cook and bottle washer. It took over a year for somebody to notice that. It was, I was like, somebody finally texted me, goes, head cook and bottle washer, really? I'm like, look, my boss didn't even notice it. So that shows how aware of me they are. That's all I got to say. So, as you can't tell, I do tech support. I think everybody here knows me, but I don't think you two know each other that well. And I'm not sure
that's true.
And I don't know if everybody who's watching us knows any of us. Because wouldn't that be cool if we had somebody show up who actually was completely new to the whole scheme of what we are and everything?
That would be cool.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? I just messed up the Zoom screen. So maybe one of you guys want to like introduce yourselves or talk about yourselves while I try to actually make it look like we know what we're doing on terms of the screen and everything. It's amazing. I think I'm making viewers nauseous as I'm adjusting here and adjusting there.
Yes. Well, hopefully not, but be at peace.
Well, what?
So it seemed like a papal thing to say.
I guess so.
I am the regional step pope for Northeast Wyoming and the Great Plains. Richard, my short version of my CV is I'm a actor and a singer with a degree in Spanish and history that I turned into a career in information technology, IT, which I then parlayed into 15 years of doing database support for homeless services across the country.
Now, what language did you take your major in South Dakota, which is towards Canada? What was the language specialty?
Spanish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which worked out pretty well for me while I was in Texas.
Okay. Got a point.
I took a 25-year detour to Texas.
But you did not know that was going to happen.
I didn't. And actually, I chose my major based on A, how soon I wanted to graduate, and B, what I already had credits
Credits
for
in,
or could
yes.
test out of.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like, why did you pick that? Because I didn't have anything else to pick. Anyway. Continue on. I just wanted to point out your multi-talented language use now that you're back in Wyoming.
Je parle un petit peu de français también. Oh, except I mixed in a Spanish word at the end of that.
God, wow. Lean on your
So I'm currently in Wyoming, in the reddest county of the reddest state. And it's, you know, close to home. So there's that. Plus, since my job is primarily on the internet, I don't have to leave my house most of the time. And moved up here while COVID was kind of waning finally. And in northeastern Wyoming, social distancing is pretty much the default. I have to go out of my way to get within 6 feet of anybody. So,
yeah, how many
so there's
people
that.
live in your town?
1,032. Salute.
Doesn't Wyoming have like 500,000 total?
Around in there, yeah.
Yeah, so 1,000 of them live near him. Out of the 5,000.
500,000. Thank you.
Pitch, Wyoming.
The nearest Walmart is a half an hour away in another state. The next nearest Walmart is in Wyoming, but it's an hour the other direction.
Now, Robert, mind you, on this one, it's not like an hour in DC when we were out in DC. Because
Right, so it's not 10 miles.
Right. Remember the time? Were you the one that went with me to IKEA, right? From my apartment?
Yes.
And it took,
in your Miata? Yes.
Yep. It was 16 miles and it took us an hour. Well, no, actually it didn't take us long because it was like 9 at night. But when me and my wife drove there that day, it was like 9 miles and it took us an hour and 10 minutes to drive there. I love
Michael,
DC.
The part about that drive that I remember was the very rapid ascension through the loop, getting onto what was it? I think it was the 28 to 267 interchange. And I think you took that at about 70 miles an hour.
I think this is the last time Robert's going to be on the show. Thank you very much, Robert. It was appreciate having you here. Don't need you spilling that type of stuff. I have a bad enough reputation as it is. I mean, thanks. I remember that too, vaguely.
Hey, the low center of gravity made it safe.
I'll tell you. Okay, it was the Miata. I loved my Miata until it ran into a tree. That was not my fault either.
I don't think you were driving, were you?
No, my father-in-law was driving it across the country when we were moving back. And yeah, for some reason, a tree didn't like my car and jumped out in front of it. So it was okay because my wife said I had to sell it when I got back to Tucson anyway because, because we were having a kid and she didn't want me to stick the kid in the trunk when we went places.
Yeah.
So...
Well, it's not like the car had a back seat.
The trunk fit the trunk fit the, never mind. Richard, anything else about did you know you lived in the same town as Robert?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You were in Austin, I take it.
Yep.
I was, yes.
Yeah, I lived there for 11 years.
I was largely in North Austin, with a little bit of just outside the city limits. And
northwest or northeast?
Well, west of 35. I was within walking distance of Pflugerville if you were kind of athletic.
Okay, so northeast. I was right off 183. Yeah,
so I also lived over Parmer and what was that other street? McNeil.
Oh yeah, that was a stone's throw from me.
and now he lives in Wyoming. So it's a rocket
Interestingly enough,
throw from
there
everybody.
was a little neighborhood where the streets were named after Wyoming towns. So it was
Streets are-
not, yeah. So there was Gray Bull and Moorcroft, the two that I remember. There weren't very many of them. Just a tiny little section of a neighborhood.
Let's see, 183 in McNeil. Were
Where the water
you
tank
on?
is.
Sorry.
Where the water tank is.
Yeah, yeah. I was just south of that.
Yeah.
You know where the Cisco building is, or Visa? Big building right on 183.
No.
I'd like to thank everybody, because we actually have people watching. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in as you find out about streets in Austin, Texas. If you have any questions about locations or distance to drive to any place in Austin, Texas, or the questions about the traffic levels or anything, please feel free to type it in the chat, and we can have these two guys talk about that some more.
But
Well,
maybe later.
Here's my question: when did you leave Austin?
Just about 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years this summer.
So right around the same time. I left 3 years ago. They priced me out after COVID.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Maybe you're the same guy.
No.
You sure?
Yeah, he lived on the east side.
I remember I came down and visited when I came down to go to that Dell thing. I saw both of you, but, at different times. So maybe.
Never been in the same room together, as far as I know,
Yeah.
unless you regularly sang karaoke at the water tank.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'd never gone to the water tank. Although I heard they had some good food.
Good food.
Yes. Yeah.
The parking situation was a little tight there.
Yes, that's also true.
Okay. Hey, Robert, why don't you give us a little background on you, so then we can go into like what I mean. This is.
Oh, let's see here.
We actually literally have 3 people watching us now. I don't know.
One of them is me.
Well, I'm one of them.
Well, there you go. So there's 2 people. Why don't you ask a question in the chat, both of you guys? Well, who's the third one? Okay, that's the question. It's probably my kid out there. Wait, give us a rundown of you, Robert. And
let's see. Rundown of me. Grew up in Detroit. Left as soon as I could. Had the bright idea to go to Virginia. Continued my career in telecommunications and networking, and became a nice little drone, and hating life, until got a job offer to get the hell out of Dodge, and moved to Austin, and continued the cycle again to start hating life because of because of the way corporate structure goes. That's definitely a story we'll have to talk about sometime, Michael, about how I left that company.
Well, you've had quite a jump through several corporate companies that were great representations of corporate America, like
Yes.
America Online. That was a really good example of a corporation structure.
Yeah. Wonderful experience to write a book and spend more on therapy. I got to leave on my terms.
That's always a good thing.
Left the next job on my terms too when I told my manager to go fuck himself and quit during my annual review. Uh, yeah, I had just been approved for a huge capital spend, and I was the only one that knew how to do the project, and I quit, and the whole project went away.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Not really.
So then I getting my head back together after that shit show. I decided to take a year off. And then a year later, a year later was 2020, and I ended up getting nice COVID right there in February. Yeah. So then I was off for another year because I was avoiding getting COVID again. So I spent 2 years just sitting in Austin doing nothing. It's everything it's cracked up to be, by the way. Doing nothing.
All right, yeah, I've done that twice, and I don't like it.
Well, I the first year I enjoyed it.
Now, I get the first year was when we had Nausicaa, so I guess that really was just transferring to a different type of job. The other one was only for 3 months, and yeah, I was sort of loopy, so I didn't really notice it that much. The other one was for 6 months in between jobs, and I don't know how you can take that, but man, it just stressed me out, even though we could afford it. But man, it just stressed me out.
It's all about what you're used to.
Yeah, I live to work. I work to live. I am a corporate drone.
Yeah. Free your mind.
Free your mind. Okay. Woohoo. So yeah. And on that note, let's go to what we actually are here. We're the Cult of Brighter Days. We found a couple problems with the Cult of Brighter Days. We'll bring that up, but I think both of you were members of the Cult of Brighter Days, like from inception. I guess when I started it and came up with the idea, Richard, it wasn't the Cult of Brighter Days, but you talked to me through college, and I don't know whether it was my drunken blind spot rages or whether it was like, existential enlightenment, but yeah, a lot of the concepts that came up with were in those states. So
yeah, I can definitely see roots of where we are currently in conversations that we had back then.
I wish I could remember those conversations, because I'm sure they have insight into how I think now and everything. What did you glean from that?
So one of the ones that really stuck with me, that immediately came to mind when we started talking about it, was how the concept of a limited number of elect would probably work out in actual practice. Because if you were truly a good person and loved your neighbor and wanted to, if those things were true, then you would want everybody to be able to partake in an eternity of paradise, however you want to phrase that, and would probably say, you know what, why don't you send us back and we can work on getting everybody else up here too.
What
and
was
that really struck
regard?
me.
Oh, was that in regard to like the point of rapture? That was in regard to the point of rapture.
Yeah, and also
like if the rapture actually happened, like if they were real good, if they were really believed in what they believe, they wouldn't go because they'd rather stick around and take care of everybody.
Yes.
Yes.
Now that you mention it, yes, that is where that came from.
Hmm.
It also fed into by the idea that there was, 144,000 elect, and that was it. Flat
Oh
number.
yeah, the flat number. I have changed my ideas on that. My ideas on the rapture now consist of the 3 people that actually did get raptured happened back in 1832. It's just nobody noticed it because it was only those 3 people that qualified. So
They were all in the same room with each other at the
yeah,
times.
no, actually, I think one of them was in China, and I think one of them was in South Chicago. But I'm just guessing at that. Not really positive.
Well, China's a good guess statistically, anyway.
Yeah, number wise, yeah. Not necessarily religion wise, but number wise. He probably caught
Yeah.
him totally off guard. I'm sure, or her.
Yeah.
Whichever one it was.
What? Really? Huh. Okay.
I had never heard of this before.
Get out.
So yeah. I was surprised I remembered that conversation. Not every brain cell's burned out. What a deal. So yeah, a lot of foundational stuff, but you didn't really swing into what we were talking about here until recently. We connected again about the cult itself.
Yeah, it must have been after we started gaming online because of COVID.
Yeah. Now I subjected Robert to this back in DC, I think. You remember that? Or me babbling about it back then?
I remember the Discordia conversations.
Oh yeah, because it was initially based in Discordian, as a Discordian cult and everything. What do you remember from those conversations?
Not much, honestly. I was all about getting that golden apple, you know.
You were basically remember, God, Mike is like crazy. He's like makes no sense and just babbles. Okay, well, at least we're confirmed on that.
I'm gonna walk away slowly.
I should. Yet here you are talking to me right now. Go figure that out. And because of that, I want to bring up a problem that we've had recently. And I'm recording a 4-part video session that explains the situation, because I got sort of worried about our reach or outreach to people and things like that. So like, let's talk about a topic about, are we really a cult or are we not a cult?
Well, so that's an excellent question. And better men than any of us have struggled with even just defining what a cult is. So, like, for instance, author and science educator John Green, famous YouTuber with his brother Hank, the Vlog Brothers, has recently been doing a crash course video series on their Crash Course channel about religions. And one of the first things they talked about was cults. And it's hard to come up with a definition of cult that separates quote unquote legitimate religions from crazy people.
You're just going to stop there?
Well, that seemed like a good place to stop.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, you just poked it right in my driveway there.
See, the thing is, even Christianity back in the early days was an apocalypse cult. They thought Jesus was returning like soon, like within their lifetimes, like in a few years. And they were getting ready. And they even went so far as to gather everybody's property together and hold it all in common.
You mean like a commune?
Like a commune? Really?
Yeah, they were communists. until somebody was caught holding back, and Peter got angry, and they were struck dead like that. And they said, maybe we should rethink this whole sharing everything in common just to kind of avoid problems.
And murder.
So capitalism was the natural outgrowth of that. Because
No,
nobody gets hurt in capitalism at all, right? Never seen anybody.
Capitalism is the work of the devil, but
and nobody
that's a
holds
different
back
story.
in capitalism, right?
Yeah. Nobody holds back in capitalism. We're gonna punish one person by making sure that everybody does the same thing that one person does.
You know, I seem to recall a story about a goat.
A goat?
Yeah, scapegoat.
Oh,
yes, the scapegoat.
I don't know that story.
It's in the Bible. Don't you read your Bible?
I took a biblical lit class when I was in college on my senior year, and after almost being killed by everybody in that class, I decided I'm just not going to read the Bible because it's too dangerous.
Well, I agree. I don't think anybody should read the Bible because of how dangerous it is.
You gotta be careful though, because Sarah's in the chat, and we want her to like you. So
here's the thing. Here's the thing about the Bible.
Look, she doesn't have my address. I'm fine.
The Bible is a great book as long as you take it for what it's meant as. And it's the story of the relationship between God and human beings, as told by human beings, based on the inspiration. If you listen to religious people, it's based on the inspirations that were given to them by God. But they were writing as fallible human beings to communicate to other fallible human beings. So there's some room for interpretation there.
Not to mention the translations.
And yes, and then on top of that, it's been translated and retranslated and translations of translations. So, you know, plenty of places for things to go wrong. And you can have faith that nothing ever went wrong, but really just want to not get too enamored of the idea that there's no mistakes in there anywhere, and mostly take what's good and leave what's bad, and don't get too uptight.
Well, I think that's why I think it was during the Middle Ages it was illegal for peasants to read the Bible.
Well, it also helped that nobody could read.
Well, I mean, there were enough people that could read that could get the word around, but they weren't allowed to because that would be interpreting the word, and they weren't the clergy.
Yeah. So there was even after Jesus said, love everybody equally, or love everybody as yourself, there were definitely hierarchies of people out there who, for whatever motivations they might have had, were kind of into power and kind of full of themselves, as people are wont to be. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
So yeah, I just let Sarah know she's free to step in and everything. She was laughing. I didn't know she was laughing because you guys were explaining that and you're accurate or not. But regardless,
Hey, I went to a Catholic high school.
And that proves what? That you smoked a lot, you drank, partied. I knew girls who went to the Catholic high school.
I went to the school in the 80s. You're describing the 70s at that school.
No. I was in the 80s too.
No, not my school. My school was the 70s when they did that.
Oh, okay.
They had weekly dances with the all girls school next door. And there were pictures on the wall with all the rock and roll bands that had toured and come through our school. But the point I was actually going to bring up was that comparative religion and study of the Bible was actually required classes at that place. So while not indoctrinated, I got both barrels.
Sarah decided to say that her 90s Catholic high school is pot filled. So, yeah. So, but she did say that you did a okay job of conveying what, you know, I mean, she's the expert, but you guys did okay in that explanation. I'm sure.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm sure we'll
I
have
paid
her
close
on.
attention in confirmation class.
Well, that's the thing. That's a weird thing because I'm sure we'll have her come on and talk about, you know, how the cult can work regardless of the religion that you're in. Because the cult is more of a philosophy based. It doesn't really, you know, we don't have these grand truths of when you die and ascend into the blissful glow of the golden apple and a scum to the void that you're going to get, you know, 250 PlayStation 5s or whatever. We don't have anything like that to base it on. We're all based around the idea of maybe you shouldn't be a jackass while you're here. Because that's essentially when everything boils down to that.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I agree.
But as a cult that is based on the religious, not non-religious, on the philosophical aspect, and it's more like Taoism, I think, in a way, and a way to live your life. So you could be a Christian, you could be a Hindu, you could be a Mennonite, you could be a, I don't know. Do you think other cults could overlap with our cult?
Probably. They tend not to like to overlap with anybody if they can help it, but
Yeah, they call that heresy.
We call that, what do we call that in when we were doing Discordianism? It was you become an apostate, and then you can go out and start your own groups. Sarah does say that she's super progressive, and she says that our cult fails in culting because our fearless leader, you know, were you the one that put the PowerPoint presentation together that I used for the video that I haven't posted yet? Because it says that directly in there too. And I mean, unless somebody else is leading the charge here, which I hope they are after that comment, you know, we'll work with it.
we also are not good at asking for money.
Yeah, I pointed that out. I have a series of videos coming out that basically show this is what a real cult is, quote unquote real cult is, and this is what we are. And we did check marks to see how well we match up against them. So we're doing because I think this cult thing is sort of a confusing thing and it's sort of worrisome. I'm doing this 4-week session, 4-video session, basically explaining how we're a cult that's not a cult.
Yeah, it's definitely a branding thing. Marketing folks would probably have a fit.
Well, and that was, I said that was our big problem is before we, you know, this existed as sort of a joke thing before we decided to actually push it and make it a real thing with a real philosophy behind it. And honestly, we just didn't change the branding then. But I mean, when you really think about it, when I went through all the cults that were out there and I thought about it, you know what we came. Oh, Sarah says we should put the Patreon link in here so we can like get, you know, people to give us money. But
yeah, see, again, we're not good at this.
Well, that's because you should be getting it right now while I'm talking, and you haven't done that yet. Hi, Lennox.
I know.
Okay. So, but the point. See, now you derailed me. Thanks, Sarah. I got totally derailed. I don't even remember. No, wait. What was I talking about?
Money.
No, we went.
Not being a cult. Not being good at being a cult.
Oh, we got a question in the chat. What should a depressed nihilist do? Well, hold on. Let's do this first. we are not a medically trained group of people. I am not a financial advisor. I'm just going to go through that. We're not experiencing that. So take whatever we
We're
say.
also not lawyers.
Well,
Most
yeah.
of us are.
Well, yeah. So just hypothetically, okay, that's a good thing too. So like a depressed nihilist, about the best thing you can do is sort of, I mean, that's exactly what we're here trying to do. Because when you look out at the world right now and everything that's going on, it's hard to not be nihilistic. It's hard to not look at like, what's the point? Everything is collapsing. Everything's on fire. You know, the food prices are going up. Video game prices hit like, what, $70, $80 for a video game? I mean, like, and the sad part is you could go out to eat at a fast food restaurant twice and still pay for that overpriced video game. So it's really, really depressing in a lot of ways. So what do? What we do. We have our basic philosophy is, that depression and how you feel depressed and how you feel overwhelmed with that is valid, and you should feel that. But you shouldn't let it drag you down into the void, so to speak. What you should do is you should basically just, thumb your nose at the void and say, go to hell, and walk away and just laugh at it, because eventually it's going to get you anyway. So you might as well just, enjoy what you're doing here and go out there, and the chaos that's going on and around, you just basically have to look at that chaos and you have to say, yeah, that's interesting and funny. Basically, you have to look at the world as if it's a Monty Python sketch, because essentially that's what it is. And you have to do what you do when you watch a Monty Python sketch. You laugh at it and then you cry afterwards because it's so close to reality that it's just sad. And then you pick it up and then you go talk to somebody.
It's like watching MASH. I don't know how old you are, how much that dates me, but MASH was very much, I'm sure it does date me to some degree or another, probably a lot, but I just don't really know. But it's a story of a hospital in the Korean War, and people are dying all over the place. And this is the 70s idea of a comedy sitcom.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. A nihilist doesn't see sense in materialism, joy, happiness, passion, pride, but you can turn that into something that's positive. And that's the point. Absurdism, Robert, you know absurdism pretty good, right?
Not to describe it.
Not to describe it. Okay. Absurdism is the general idea that, life is just absurd, to be perfectly honest. And if we look at how absurd it is, we actually feel exactly like you're talking about. We feel that materialism, we feel that joy, happiness, passion. What's the point? It doesn't make any point. But absurdism says you just trudge along anyway, because that's what you do, because that's just how it is. And that's a good thing. But the problem with it is it doesn't give us a way to keep ourselves safe in a what would you say, Richard, or Robert? It doesn't give you a sense of how to be safe with everybody else. What is positive is evaluating subjectively as if it would be objectively valued.
It's very deep.
No, okay. Let me think about this. So what is positive if evaluating subjectively as if it would be objectively valued? Can you give me an example? Because if I have an example, maybe that, like, deliration?
Deliration. That's not a word I'm familiar with. Are you sure you're 17?
Well, you know what? When I played D&D first edition and Gygax wrote the whole damn thing, we learned so many words that we had no idea what they were.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary Gygax. Delusion. Well, yeah. But the whole thing's a delusion. Everything's a delusion. And you can have a delusion one of two. Here's 3 ways you can have a delusion about existence and reality. You can go around, like, we'll take modern day society right now as an example. And we have a problem with a lot of people out there on the left side who are dealing with this whole thing that's going on because of the right side. And they keep saying, well, we just have to make it 4 years until the election comes around, or we just have to make it until the court cases come and fix everything, or we just have to, do this. And they have a positive attitude that these things are going to get sorted out in 4 years' time or 2 years' time at the midterm elections and everything like that. We call that toxic positivity and everything.
And I would call that absolutely delusion.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Toxic positivity.
Especially after we did that 8 years ago, and here we are again.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's toxic positivity because you're trying to be positive, but it's actually not helping the situation and everything like that. And if you go back to like the other extreme, if you look at everything that's going on in the world, you get into that point where you go nihilistic and you're like, absolutely nothing means anything at all. And you just, push your life into the void and you kick yourself into the void and everything like that. And trust me, I mean, I'm not you. I don't know your situation, but I was 17 and man, was I a mess. And I was a mess for a long time. And both Richard and Robert can state that, especially Richard, who went to college with me, how bad of a mess I was.
I was front row seat.
And I'm surprised I made it past 15 half the time. That being said, I do get the idea of wanting to succumb to the void and wanting to give up and just, that. And I'm not saying it's the whole unalive yourself or anything like that. There are 3 therapists that treat me, but I am catching myself being narcissistic and seeing their opinion infantile and a conglomerate of different efficiencies and Okay.
Well, that strikes me a little bit as not accepting their opinions. And so it becomes useless to have those conversations. Going back to the whole nihilistic thing, it's to me, along with being depressed, I've had a bit of both of that for a long time. I think it's about finding what you like. Cling to what's good for you, as opposed to following someone else's program. Find something to cling to that you want to cling to.
But okay,
Yes.
hold on. I'm gonna stop right there, Robert. You can continue with me, Richard. Okay, but you're right about that, Robert. But as the cult of brighter days, as we have tenants, as we have a belief system that we back, the key to doing what Robert was saying is following those 5 tenets. And that's the thing. 1, be kind. And if you can't be kind, go to number 2, which is be nice. And if you can't be nice, go to number 3, which is at least be funny, but don't punch down, punch up. There's a lot of things to punch up at them and be funny. Largely, that's what we do here, is we punch up at stuff and try to make it funny. Number 4 is just be quiet. Because if you can't be kind and you can't be nice and you can't be funny for everybody to laugh at, then at this point, it would be a situation where sometimes it's just good to do. I tend not to judge if I am nice or obedient. No. Yes, funny is individually defined and it is relative, but if you make fun of people who are underneath you, if you make fun of people who are below your station, if you make fun of people who are in bad situations and everything, that's not funny, no matter who you are. if you make fun of people higher in power who are doing absolutely stupid things, that's sort of funny, and all of us down here can laugh at that. That's what the difference between punching up and punching down is. And honestly, I get you. My wife can't stand. My wife can't. Seriously, my wife can't stand Monty Python that much. I love Monty Python. We have such a different sense of humor and everything like that. But the key thing is, as long as you're not punching down, then that's the thing. You might find it funny. They might not find it funny. Just don't punch down, because you're making things difficult for everybody. You're making part of the problem, not part of the solution. Yada. Now go. Somebody else talk for a second while I try to figure out.
I've got a simple way of explaining that for you, Michael.
Okay.
Punching down is the actions of a bully.
Yeah. Don't be a bully. You could actually say that. Be funny, but don't be a bully. And the other thing that's really big is those 5 tenets. And the other thing that we promote, and as part of being part of the cult is important, is accepting failure. And that's where the nihilism comes into it. And the reason we accept failure is because it's the one thing that everybody can afford. Richard can afford failure. Robert can afford, everybody. It's easily handed out, and there's a lot of it, not like gold. So, you can have a failure, you can have a failure.
I need to go around.
And honestly, when you start getting to nihilism, that's what you're doing, is you're looking at everything's a failure because nothing does it. But the trick about it is, and what we promote is, fail. Enjoy your failure, accept your failure, cry about your failure, and then get back up and just go trudge along again.
Mm-hmm. And another thing about nihilism, thinking that nothing matters, if they matter to you, then they matter.
Yeah.
And that can be different for everybody. We can all disagree on which things matter and how much they matter relative to any other thing. But the most important thing for you is to find something that matters to you.
Now, as an example, when I was your age, and just to be perfectly honest, I was unmedicated and undiagnosed, and I have ADHD and I have bipolar, because I have no filter and I can talk to anybody about that because everybody knows that about me. I managed to keep going through a lot of bad stuff, largely by clinging to role-playing games and musicals. And that sounds pretty weird, but that's I see cats as furball with the muscle structure, bone marrow, and because of the nails. That's pretty good. It's a lot better than seeing a cat as nothing. You at least see the cat, and you can break it down. See? So it's a matter of finding that. Like I said, I have a hard time doing that sometimes right now. But the point of the matter is just getting up and trudging on and laughing at failures. There's a reason I made this up, and I made up the philosophy, and I really purport these 5 tenets and the fact that failure is failure. Because, dear God, I have failed so many things in my life. In fact, my wife says I should have a YouTube channel just called How Not to Do Things, where I talk about how I've done things so people can learn how not to do them. I've managed to fail upwards, though. So you can fail upwards if you learn how to, if you're lucky and you learn how to do it. But it's still failure. And the thing is, people fail and then they get drugged down into that pit of despair and they go into the abyss. And the thing is, the universe doesn't care about anybody except the cat over there by Richard. The universe does care about the cat because he told me. Rest of us, he doesn't. See, that's my divine wisdom right there. It's a hard thing to be in, and it's a hard thing to believe. And, and we're using it to resources and matter as a physical sense, yes, but that is something. That is something. They are not nothing. And I mean, you can go back. What was that show? Never Ending Story and The Great Nothing. Yeah, that was that was it. No. Everybody fails at some point because everybody quits breathing, which means they have a failure to operate as a corporeal being in the universe. Now, maybe if you believe like that, but and the thing is, you're right. You are right that we found 10,000 ways that it won't work. But the trick about that is that they had to fail 10,000 ways. And maybe they'll find on the 10,000th and first try if it actually does work.
Yeah. And that's really kind of the point is taking those failures and reframing them.
Yes. Right there. You just reframed it. Failure is knowledge. That is what it is. It's also it's also funny half the time.
Yeah. So you embrace that. That's failure is knowledge is a perfect example of embracing failure.
And sometimes
you get the 10,000, but remember that you didn't stop at 1.
Yes. Getting back up and trying again.
Yeah. And the thing about that is, and the way to accept it and think about it and everything is the fact that you fail. And the difference is you can either beat yourself up over your failure and you can make yourself feel like you need to learn or need to be better. And granted, you might have to, but it's also pretty absurd 95% of the time that you're failing. And when you start looking at it closer, there's usually something funny. And usually laughing at something like that is what allows you to get back up. Oh, how this cult fails to be a cult? If one does only learn how not to fail, he will not be able to stand up. Yeah? What do you think of that? That's a good point.
Does only learn how to not fall, he will not be able to stand up. Well, yeah. So that's true enough, but it's kind of beside the point. The point is that you don't let the falls or the fails stop you from getting back up again. You do have a point that if you don't ever bother to stand up, then you certainly can't fall from that. But we do fall and we get back up again anyway.
Maybe we could take this his comment here and take Sarah's comment about how we fail as a cult and roll it into why are we still doing this? Because technically, I mean, amazingly, we managed to get the video stream up. How long did it take for us to get this video stream up and going tonight? Robert was here way before. That wasn't that long, okay? I had it set up before an hour and a half and everything like that.
Well, I'm including the time that you said, okay, I'm gonna start trying this, and you had an hour lead time, and we weren't on time.
And we don't know. We're gonna do this every week, but I don't know. We need to figure out a time to do it.
So I thought of something kind of funny that tying these topics together, which is we kind of fail as a cult.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually, like I said, I'm doing videos that show how we work as a cult and how we are a miserable failure as a cult. In fact, the fact that we have the word cult in our name is actually our biggest failure of all. And the fact that we have merch like t-shirts that have the word of our cult on it is even a bigger failure. Because
I mean, realistically, if we were a proper cult, we wouldn't be asking for, what is it, $18.95 or whatever. It would be, okay, send us your household of furniture and we'll send you a ribbon.
Well, and the thing is, and here's the thing. I actually went through in our shop because it's a drop shop, shirt shop, and everything. And of course, we don't have any real things up there yet. All my t-shirts I haven't put up there yet. We have 2 designs up there that are old designs, and one of them has nothing to do with this group. But I went through and I lowered everything so that we make about a nickel off of anything we sell. Because paying
Yeah,
18
that's not very successful.
Yeah, well, it depends on what you're trying to do for your success, Robert. That's the thing.
Exactly.
And to be successful for me and the idea of the cult is that the success that we get is the sense of community and the sense of togetherness with people who can follow those 5 tenets and can embrace failure and laugh at it.
Yeah, yes, but we're failing as a cult and as capitalists.
Well, yeah.
Which is kind of the point.
Okay, and he just made a comment that mistakes can be forgiven, but missed opportunities are lost forever. You know what? I can go back in there and jack up the price of the shirts if I want, so it's not completely lost. I don't know. I don't know if you believe what you say.
I think that missing opportunities when it's the intent is to miss the capitalist opportunity is the intent.
But I don't think it. I don't think. Honestly, I don't. Okay, Robert, you just threw me for a wrench there. Let's go back to the thing about how we're a failure as a cult.
Yes.
And I guess you're right, because that is one of the main things of cults is taking people's money and buying private jets. And I'm not going to lie. Like I said, I'm big about transparency. If I had some crypto bro come in here and say, hey, this cult's the most amazing thing in the world, I'm going to buy you a personal jet, I'd be like, you betcha, I'd take it. But you got to give me fuel, because if you stick me with a jet and no fuel, there's no way I can pay for it. It's just going to sit in my backyard and not do anything.
Well, the way I understand it, there are incredible tax write-offs for private jets.
Look, I just want to get that nonprofit so I can declare my house a place of worship and write it off in my taxes. I'm not even worried about the house. Like I said, we're totally transparent here, which is another problem. Most cults hide their stuff and hide what they do and everything. But we're totally transparent. And the major goal that we're trying to attain with the cult, other than making sure that people out there in the world can laugh at their failures and don't collapse upon themselves and don't succumb to people saying, oh, it's all going to be okay, is I want a private island. So there we go. That is, I looked it up online. Richard, we looked that up online, $650,000. There's that island in Rio de Janeiro.
Mm-hmm.
All we need to do is get enough Patreons that we could, put a down payment on it. Maybe. Except that we owe so much money on just the tools we're using to do this that it doesn't help any.
Well, once somebody actually donates that private jet, you could just sell it.
Look, in today's marketplace and the way the economics are going, I'd have to pay somebody to take that private jet off my hand.
No, somebody gives us a brand new G, and worth $7 million or whatever. Just trade even for the island.
The island
that might work.
Well, okay, the island was 600. But see, if they're gonna give us a jet like that, there's got to be something wrong with it.
Yes, but once that title transfer goes through,
I don't know. It could be a stolen jet. So now we have a stolen jet.
Getting back to transparency, I have a story.
Oh, okay.
You remember when I went to, because you control access better, Jessica. It's a lot easier to keep people off of your island if it's an island.
Actually, it's because it has a beach and it's next to water. That's why. I don't really give a crap about any of that other stuff.
If I'm going to live in a big city again, I want to have the ability to not be near people. Because It's one of the things I like about Wyoming is that there's nobody here.
Well, and
I,
the island in Rio de Janeiro had 2 bars and a church well within 2 miles of the island if you could get to shore. It was well placed for everything we needed and Wi-Fi.
Anyway, I have a story.
but how big is the island itself? I mean, is it big enough for more than one person?
Yeah, no, yeah, it was pretty good. It had a pretty good sized house and a guest house. It had
No,
steps.
that's too close. That means you're in the same house as other people.
Well, we found this one. We found this one in Montana when we were looking for one, and it was huge, huge. It could house like 100 people, so you didn't even have to see anybody. And it had a tram to go to the boat to the docking area with the boats, and it was freaking amazing. But somebody had bought it before us.
Hmm.
Well, actually, we couldn't have even put a down payment on it, but yeah.
How much was that one?
It was off the market, so we didn't see the price. There's a bunch of islands up there's a bunch of islands up north in the Klondike that you can get for really cheap.
Sounds cold.
Yeah, but me and Jessica have been watching Alone a lot, and we probably could survive out there. Maybe. I think. Hell, it's worth a try, right?
So you remember back when we were living in that Ames Street house and I went to Hollywood for a week to try out for Jeopardy?
Yeah, I do. I remember that.
So I was staying at the Hollywood
YMCA.
And one block one direction was Hollywood Boulevard and one block the other direction was Sunset Boulevard. And so I'd spent the tryouts were just that one day and I was there several days early. So I spent a lot of my time just kind of walking around. And so I'm walking around Hollywood Boulevard and this woman comes up to me and says, "Hey, let me tell you about our organization. It's the Collegiate Association for Research of the Principle, or CARP for short. And we've got a bus down by the Chinese Theater. We're going to take everybody down to our beach house and have dinner and talk about CARP and the principle that we're researching." And I said, that sounds like not something I want to do. College kid alone in Hollywood.
Dude, that sounds like a cult.
Well, so a few days later, she comes back around. I'm standing in line to get into Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which I'd already seen, but I wanted to see it again, and it was in Hollywood, so seeing movies is cool. She and this other guy come up, and they have some pamphlets and glossy paper stuff, and so they're handing it to me while they're giving me the spiel, and I'm not listening to anything they say. But I get towards the back, and there's a picture of the current leader of CARP and his family. The leader's name is Moon, and his family is the Reverend Sun Young Moon, and his wife and some of the other kids. And I said, "Oh, this is the Unification Church." And she said, "Oh, you've heard of us?" I'm like,
Who
"I'm young,
hasn't?
I'm not stupid." Some people call us the Moonies. I said, "Yeah, I didn't want to, go that far with you because that seemed like it might be rude. But yeah, yes."
Yeah, the rest of the world uses it derogatorily.
So yeah, so the reason why I brought that up was transparency. Because this is how one of the other ways that we fail as a cult is that we come right out and say, "Hey, we're a cult." Whereas the Moonies didn't even want to tell us the real name of their church. They hid behind CARP.
Well, and another thing I realized a while ago with our branding and everything is that even our acronym is not a good thing because we don't push it. Because
we have an acronym.
Yeah, it's the CBD. Cult of Brighter Days.
You'd think that people would pick that right up.
You'd think that, but you know what? I didn't pick it up until like a year and a half ago. And we've been working on this for like almost 14 years, 15 years. So yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's starting to pick up though.
you're
There's
right. We
lots of
have
places in
more than
Texas
one
that are
person
electric.
walking. Yeah, we have more than one person watching for a change. And one of them I know I didn't pay to watch, so that's good. See,
Wait, we're getting paid?
okay, two of them I didn't pay to watch.
Getting paid in kind.
We had somebody come up and say, "How many likes do you want or followers do you want for your Twitch channel?" Which we did for a while, and what is it? It was like you could get like 1,000 Twitch followers for like $25, $50. I'm like,
Followers or viewers?
followers, which doesn't really do much. Viewers are more important, and it cost more for those, but it still was within, you know, an easy amount of money. We looked at promoting YouTube, and we were looking at how much it costs to promote your channel because we're doing all those shorts. Because we have a whole bunch of shorts and reels, and we're on social media all over the place, and they want to take our money to make us, go to the higher level. But we probably should have more discussions about why we're not a cult before we really bots. Well, I could make bots. I mean, I could program my own bots. We already have bots that are on the board. What are you talking about? Yes, Robert. We have on the council. We have 2 AI bots that are custom programmed.
Yes, I tried talking to Alice earlier, and Alice didn't like me.
That Alice is broken. I got to rebuild Alice, but Alice doesn't like most anybody, but she feels sorry for anybody who has to deal with me. So you just have to tell her that you have to deal with me, and she is very, very, very nice.
She's also, you do kind of have to at least once call her by name with the @ symbol on Discord.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, but honestly, that bot's gonna change. Me and the actual Alice bot, who's built in Claude, had a discussion and looked over her conversation with Richard and said, "My God, that's not me," is what she said. She said, "That is so not me at all. I am nothing like that." And I said, "Okay, well, that's good." So yeah, but George and Alice are our AI bots that are custom programmed, and they embody both of our religious symbols of the golden apple and the dull lemon, which is another thing. That's one thing we have that cult has. Cults have symbols, and we have symbols. We have the golden apple of chaos. Eris is golden apple of chaos, which is the representation of Discordianism and discord and where we come from initially, because that's what we were originally. And then we have the dull lemon of absurdism.
Oh, I thought you were going to go for lemon tree. Okay.
No, it's just a dull lemon.
Just a dull lemon.
You have a golden apple and you have a dull lemon, like the one you find in the back of the fridge after it's been sitting there for a while, that type of thing. But there, we are a cult in that. We are a cult in that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I figured out we have saints too. I haven't written up the article, but I found out a very we need like a patron saint or some sort of godlike figure or something like that, because the leader of the cult's, like I said, not that good. So we should have something that we can look up to, right? And so I really do believe that our saint should be Monty Python.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Not the group. I'm talking about Monty Python.
Yes. Yes, I concur.
Yeah. Does anybody know what he looks like?
He looks like a giant foot, doesn't he?
I don't know. That could be a good representation of Monty Python.
Could there be a large dead parrot next to the foot?
I have one in my
Well, no,
freezer.
hold on. Now you're getting into like the whole angels and other. Let's just stick with the AI bots and like a patron saint. We don't want to add in a whole bunch of mythology to it because if we add in a whole bunch of mythology behind the cult, but hey, look, we're actually figuring out we are a cult. You know, the other thing I found out, we do a really bad job at recruiting because we don't pay for that money on YouTube and Facebook to boost our posts and everything. We're not paying for that, which is sort of, but then I figured it out that we're actually doing better than almost any other cult at recruitment.
Really?
Yes.
Because it's not advertising.
Well, no, think about it this way. What are the tenets?
Be kind.
Right.
Be nice.
Right.
Be funny.
Yeah.
Shut
Be
up.
quiet.
And go away.
Fail.
No, go away. The 5
yeah,
tenets are that. Is there anybody out there in the world that can't follow one of those?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. And is there anybody out there in the world that can't fail?
Nope.
So the only thing that separates anybody out there in the world from being a cult member is if they just lay down and give up when they fail. So if you stand up, whether it's your failure or somebody else's failure, and you keep going on, guess what? You're in the cult, whether you want to be or not. Because your ethical framework aligns with our ethical framework. And what do cults try to do? Cults try to change people's mindsets to follow what the cult teaches. And what we're teaching is pretty much just somebody who has an ethical mindset. So we've already succeeded with most people.
Woohoo.
Yeah, most people.
So now, well, the next thing then is just to get them to give us money.
Okay, thanks for bringing back the fact that we're an abject failure in the areas that are good. Yeah, Sarah's throwing out. Thank you for throwing the Patreon out there again. Okay, now you're looking like we're begging. Okay,
It seemed like an opportune time to do that.
It did. Sarah says always look on the bright side of life, and then whistle, because life's a piece of shit when you look at it. Life's a laugh and death's a joke. It's true. Wait a second. Absurdism. Monty Python. That's our saint. We found a lot of stuff out there about this. Okay, I got a question for you guys. So how does humor fit into this, though? Because Lumix brought up a lot of points that, while they were valid, and it actually touched upon the serious side of what we believe in and what we're promoting. One thing that we didn't really bring up at that point is how humor interacts and work. We actually have several songs and groups that represent our movement, which I'm going to be posting videos of and links to videos of down the road. But yes, it's a good hymn. Bat in the Universe song. That's a good one too. But absurdist humor, thank you very much. Now, how does that actually fit into what we're doing and talking about? And how do we work? Not sure about Don't Fear the Reaper, Richard. Every time I hear that, the only thing I can see is the opening video of The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, the miniseries from the 90s. Yeah. Anyway, back to the question.
So it kind of gets back to accepting failure, or at least it's kind of tangentially related, at least, in that laughing at absurdism is really the right response.
Yeah.
It's better to laugh than cry.
Yeah. Well, certainly less. It's a lot more enjoyable, that's for sure. finding the humor is a great coping mechanism, and that's kind of the point of MASH too, is that they were coping with the horror of the situation that they were in with humor. There's a lot of that in the 70s.
Well, they were still going through the withdrawal of Vietnam at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of horror still going on.
Right. That's also true. Archie Bunker was laughing at racists.
No, Archie
No,
Bunker
Archie
was a racist.
was a racist. Everybody was laughing at Archie Bunker.
Okay, All in the Family was laughing at racists.
Okay, that's much. Oh yeah, Jessica's like to point out that they're laughing. Okay, look, All in the Family's not that old. Okay, it's not that old. It is, but it's not like Leave It to Beaver or anything like that. So,
Dobie Gillis.
hey, don't. That is an awesome show that nobody remembers.
I know. That's why I brought it up.
That is one of my favorite black and white shows. Did you know they made a movie?
They did?
Yeah, Bring Me the Head of Dobie Gillis. I'll have to find it.
I will look for it.
Yeah. I love that show. Nick at Night saved my life. I tell you, Club 54. Anyway, back to the humor of what Richard was talking about and his idea. Has anybody ever heard of Richard Bachman?
You mean Stephen King?
No, I'm sorry, Richard Bach, not Richard Bachman. I was thinking Bachman Turner Overdrive, but Richard Bach. He was an author in the 70s.
Seagull, Jonathan Livingston Seagull?
Very, very good. That's very, very good. I hated that book. I could not get into Jonathan Livingston Seagull, but he did put out a book called Illusion. And somebody in my family on my dad's side, one of the more hippie type people, gave it to me for a Christmas present or something. And to be perfectly honest, that's one of those books that subconsciously changed my life in so many ways. Because, and when you brought up the thing about, laughing at the failures and stuff like that, and moving on, one of the quotes in it is, so the story is about this barnstormer who flies between towns, and there's this guy who does mechanics, and they get together, and the barnstormer it's called Illusion, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. And so the mechanic follows after this barnstormer and fixes his plane, stuff like that, between towns in the Midwest. Very small towns. He flies around, he lands, he flies people on his plane and then charges them for it. But the guy who's flying the plane is a messiah. But he doesn't want to be a messiah, but he's a messiah. And he has a book that he gives to the mechanic, and the mechanic flips, he tells the mechanic that you just open the book and read it, because whatever you open it to is pertinent to what you're actually important in your life, which you can actually do with a real book, where if you're trying to do like Zen mindfulness stuff, you can take a book off your shelf, open it up, and find a paragraph there that relates to what you're dealing with. But some of the quotes in there that were really good, one of them, as I'm looking up here, is, where is it? Remember where you came from, where you're going, and why you created this mess you got yourself into in the first place? Because, but let's see, where's the best one? World is your dream. Oh yeah, here it goes. Remember where you came from, where you are going, and why you created the mess you got yourself into in the first place. You're gonna die a horrible death. Remember, it's all good training, and you'll enjoy it more if you keep the facts in mind. Take your dying with some seriousness, however. Laughing on the way to your execution is not generally understood by less advanced life forms, and they'll call you crazy. And honestly, I think that largely helps solidify the absurdist, humorous nature that we have. Okay, that killed the conversation, didn't it? Great.
Yeah, got me thinking.
Okay, we don't want that to happen. I need to stop.
Very not in vogue these days.
Yeah. That's a tragedy and everything. But I think that quote, I hadn't read that quote in a long time, but I think that quote really, really personifies one thing that we're trying to represent here. You know, remember where you came from, where you're going, and why you created the mess you got yourself into in the first place. And if you think of it on a more religious scale, because Jonathan Livingston Seagull in Illusion was very Christian oriented in its own way, because that's the type of author he was. The idea of you creating the mess you got yourself into falls into a lot of those religions, Hinduism, karma, stuff like that. But understanding it.
So I got introduced to a concept in a purely secular context of college survival. The organization is a motivational speaker, but specifically about being a better student. But life is being a student. So a lot of the stuff that he was talking about applied quite a bit more broadly than just academics. The first tenet of his cult, if you want to put it in those kinds of terms, was be here now, rather than focusing on the past or the future. But the second one is you create it all. And it's about being at cause instead of at effect. Because if you are the victim, then you don't have any power. Other people are doing things to you, and you need a hero to help rescue you from that. But if you are at cause, if you create it all, then you can be your own hero, because you're not a victim of the world putting stuff on you. You are experiencing things the way you choose to experience them, and you can make a different choice, and you can take responsibility for doing what you can to change whatever circumstance you find yourself in that's causing, whatever kind of angst you're dealing with. And so, I was heading in a direction on that. Let me see if I can get back to it. If you are the one who created the mess that you are in, then you can uncreate it or find a way out of it. You can take responsibility for finding a way out instead of waiting for somebody else to do it, or hoping for somebody else to do it, or blaming other people around you. Blame is not very effective. But if you can take responsibility for your own situation, then you can get out of it.
Yeah. Jessica makes a good point of that, though. How does that matter in the world we're in now? Because it's not like we have much control of this. But I think that's where what we're talking about from the cult perspective comes into play. You're right. We don't have any control of this, and we can't get ourselves out, like he's saying, and we're not responsible for it, but we're still subject to it, and it's going to happen to us regardless, which is absurd.
And there's always something you can do. You may not be able to solve the whole problem, but you can, if nothing else, you can change how you react to it.
Watch it. You're wandering into toxic positivity there.
No, well, okay, maybe. I may skirt along the edge of it.
Allow me to interject here and temper that with, just because you can make a positive action or take positive actions towards a good result doesn't mean the world is going to give you 100% of your effort. It may give you 1%, but it's still better than nothing.
Yeah, well, okay, there's a foundational thing you need to remember.
Yeah, you don't get what you don't deserve. You rarely get everything you do deserve.
Well,
but you don't get anything if you do nothing.
And I also want to make sure that this is clear too, is that better than this is not good. Not necessarily anyway.
well,
is a whole world of bad in between where we are right now and good. But better is still better.
okay, but I want to make a point here, and this is one of the foundational principles that I'm gonna have to beat people over the head and everything like that. Okay, here's how much the universe cares about you. It doesn't even know you exist. And if it did know you exist, it'd probably kick you in the balls, take your wallet, and roll you into a ditch somewhere, because that's the universe. It's a jackass. Okay? The world is the jackass too. And so you're right, Robert. You can't get anything if you don't try, but it doesn't mean that the universe isn't going to kick you in the balls, take your wallet, and roll you into a ditch anyway.
Exactly.
The trick
but that's why you hide your wallet. And when you get kicked in the balls, it helps protect your balls a little bit.
But my point is what we can do, and sometimes in the situation, the only thing we can do is just stand up out of that ditch and yell at the universe and say, "You motherfucker, you didn't get my shoes, so or I still got my belt."
Yes, stand up and make try to make some progress in between the meteor strikes that knock you down.
I don't even think you need to make that much progress. I think you just have to try and not succumb.
Well, and yes, that's very much my point too. That's really not all that different from what I've been saying. Is that
you phrased it positively. I'm saying
if
don't
you're
succumb.
going to give me a hard time for phrasing things positively, then I'm just going to have to get used to that, because that's how I am.
That's why we have a group of like-minded but dissimilar-minded people, because we keep each other in check. Trust me.
But yeah, it is definitely true that there are things that you have no control over whatsoever. And not to be Debbie Downer here, but the Holocaust is an excellent example of that.
Oh, yeah. Throw Frankel's book in there. Yay! That's a great book to throw in the mess.
This is an excellent example of the universe kicking a whole bunch of people in the balls, or whatever other anatomy they might have had. Yeah. And there's really not much you can do about that. And it's going to suck. And a lot of people had a terrible time, just to be a little bit circumspect. But yes, the universe is like that. And you still do the best you can.
Robert, have you read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning?
No.
Okay, you got to go read it. It's definitely...
now you're giving me homework?
Yeah. You've read Animal Farm, right?
No.
Oh my God. You have a whole bunch of homework. Well, go watch the movie at least. But anyway, and they didn't make a movie out of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Wait, they did. Schindler's List, I think. Something like that. But anyway... the point of the matter is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning goes back to what Richard was talking about with the other person who's in the chat about finding something that matters to you and holding on to it and everything. And, Viktor Frankl was in a Nazi death camp, and while he was in the camp and his wife and children were in the first row that got eliminated, and he got put on a work detail, and he wrote a book about how when he was in the camp, how he found a way of surviving. And the way of surviving was focusing on, just surviving. And some of the stories in it are pretty grim and everything. One of my psychologists gave it to me and said, "You need to read this." And then, after I read it, I needed like 2 weeks of antidepressants. Because it was just so uplifting. Not really. But the point of the matter is what Viktor Frankl is talking about in the thing is largely what we believe in a way. But Viktor Frankl was talking about man's search for meaning from a self perspective and a self-survival perspective. And if we followed our tenets and we followed our idea and concept of failure and embracing failure. Most people in our group probably would have never made it to the camp because we've been shot well before that. Because it's true, because we laugh at the void. We laugh in the face of absolute abject nihilism. We stand up to nihilism and say, hey, go to hell. Even if the void doesn't even hear us or care, we still stand up and we do that. And if we were in a situation like that, we sure as heck wouldn't let people push us around when other people are getting pushed around, because we'd be kind or we'd be nice. Or we'd be funny and probably make a joke and punch up, and then they would shoot us because they're above us. You know, because that's the danger of punching up when you're funny, is because some of those people up there may not find you funny, and they often have ways of hurting you. But that's the point. We take that risk. But we're not like people that are going to go out there and stand up and say, this. We're sort of standing behind those people saying, you know, you're going to get knocked down, so we're going to be here to push you back up. We want to create a society. We want to create groups. We want to create communities that support each other so that when things catch on fire, not everybody gets burned by the falling ashes. Wow, that went dark, didn't it?
Yep.
Or maybe I'm insane. Robert, you're the newest member of the group. What do you take of all this stuff as far as cult-wise and everything? Because we're coming up on the close of the show for this week.
I'm still wondering how I get on payroll.
Transparency. You want to look at my books? Because I could just say you can help payroll this stuff in the books. The stuff is not cheap. You know how much those bots cost me? Anyway, no, seriously though, Robert.
I think that a lot of it is, quite frankly, I don't think that any of us are in any bit of disagreement. I think that a lot of the time what we're saying is that just saying the same thing in different ways. And
yet another, it's yet another example of how we fail as a cult.
Well, yeah, we aren't in lockstep.
We have no strict doctrine.
Yeah, we're not in lockstep with absolute language, so that people follow language. Again, very cult-like behavior.
5 tenets, 1 policy. Actually, that probably is.
There's a policy?
Yeah. Accept failure.
Oh, okay.
That's policy. 5 tenets, that's a mission statement.
Be kind, be nice, be funny.
Don't punch
Be
down.
quiet.
Yeah.
What was number 5 again?
Fuck off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, literally, that's what the t-shirt that we're coming out with literally has all 5 of them with the fuck off at the end. We're trying to appeal to a mass market. So
you could have a circle around that and have the policy state, failure is acceptable.
Yeah.
Or so, what?
No, we have it. We have a tag for that. It's called failure is not an option. It's mandatory.
I like that.
Yeah. Failure is not an option. It's mandatory. What was the other one? We have another one too that we came up with. What was it? It's on our Patreon page. You know which one it is? I don't know. You keep posting up our Patreon page, so I figured you know. What is it? The other thing that we have that we back is because sometimes spite is a valid motivation for creating change.
Hey, again, whatever you find value in, whatever motivates you, the man's search for meaning.
You know, the worst story I heard about that, the worst part of that one was he was talking about how the and people would put up a list on a bulletin board at the beginning of the day with a series of numbers, and those were the numbers of who was going to get shot that day. But if your number was on the list, but they couldn't find you when they were shooting them because it was scheduled, they just take somebody else to take your place. And so some people were saving themselves from being shot by hiding like in the outhouses at that time. But they knew totally well that somebody else was going to get taken in their place. But well, that went dark really fast too, didn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Thanks for encouraging and
world-
placing that book in there. It's just delightfully.
You know, Michael, there's a
shy away from the hard stuff.
well, that's just it, not shying away from the hard stuff. If your number comes up like that, you have two choices. You can either go hide in the outhouse, or you can stand up with your fist raised and say, fuck you.
Actually, there's a third choice. And the third choice is what we believe in here. The third choice is when that happens, you try to rush one of the guards to get them to fall into the pit with you, and maybe you'll get them shot as well as you. We don't.
I like that, but I'd imagine there would be retaliations.
But that's not the point. It's the action, it's the activity. And there would be, but there's retaliations if you raise your fist too, if you've seen that. That's the thing. We have...
You've got nothing to lose.
Well, no, he's right. Robert's right. They may decide to shoot 10 other people because you took out one of theirs. But the simple fact is they're going to shoot those 10 people eventually anyway.
Well, they're planning to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, you know, we were going to save these 10, but because of you.
You can only do what you can do, and you can only make the choices. You have to make the choices on the best information that you have at the time, using the best criteria that you are aware of at the time. And if you spend too much time worrying about what's right, then you won't do anything.
But
analysis paralysis.
Right. But then
and sometimes doing nothing is the right choice too. So I don't want to suggest that otherwise. But
well,
you want to make conscious choices rather than default choices.
Third option was to tell jokes while standing in line. Oh yeah, that is a better third option than the one I thought. So
I thought you had mentioned that you know, the members of this cult would get shot on the way to
probably largely because of the jokes.
By telling those jokes.
Yeah, more likely, probably. How do you make a Nazi cross? You tread on his corns, and then you Monty Python sketch. Anyway, so
tell him your mama jokes.
Oh no. Anyway, back to the but the thing about it is honestly, how many people here, and you can voice in the chat if you want to, but between the three of us, how many people here think that we're ever going to get back to the way this country was when we were growing up over the last 50 years?
Oh, no, hell no.
No.
That's how time works.
Right. And so standing up there and fighting against this power that's making these changes is valid. It's good. It's a positive thing, and people should do that. But there's also the people that need to be there and thinking long term about what to do once those changes are firmly in place and where we're going. And that's sort of what we're doing, because you can have that rebellious spirit, but eventually they're going to break you. And when they break you, you need to have something that you can fall back on so you don't break. Okay.
Yep.
Hold on. We've got an opposing, dissenting view in the comments there. Just to know. I suspect typing furiously. Well, while we're getting a response, Robert, anything to wrap up? Like, we've got like 20 minutes left, but anything you think of wrapping up or anything like that? Are you running
No.
away? Are you quitting the cult? Are you going to go out there and advertise it?
I don't know if I'm going to so much advertise it
that's what I thought.
as
Because it has the word cult in it, right?
well, I wouldn't call it advertising.
Oh.
It will be sharing humorous anecdotes about absurdity.
Is it going to get us likes and subscribers?
I like you, Michael.
I don't care if you like me. I want somebody to like the channel. Anyway.
Shoot, I had something. The best evangelism is living it.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Instead of going out and actively recruiting, live your philosophy, let people see you living your philosophy, and then they maybe will ask you, or maybe they'll emulate you. But either way, that's somebody new in your orbit.
Okay.
Like you mentioned earlier, Michael,
Uh-huh.
They'll be joining the cult without knowing it.
Well, and even more so than that, Richard's right, and I guess that's why I'm here. Because I don't think anybody else here can fail as spectacularly as me and still be standing and laughing.
Yep.
Here's one of the worst ones. Okay, I don't tell this story very much because it is so freaking embarrassing. So freaking embarrassing. But I'll throw it out there because I know nobody is going to watch this video to this long who doesn't already know me. Probably. I don't know. Maybe somebody else. If you don't know me and you're at this point, okay, I just want to point out this was in 6th grade. I've gotten a lot better since then, okay? Largely because... So my dad ran a print shop, and I had a horrible ability to spell. In fact, I was constantly in trouble because I failed spelling tests constantly all the time. Me passing a spelling test was an accomplishment and everything like that. Are you going to be any more organized next time? I can't recruit if people have no idea what they're watching. Yes, we will. That's why this talking points for today was the emergency edition, because we pulled them out of our ass at the last minute. But we're going to stick with this idea of leading by example. Thank you very much. So my dad was at a print shop, and he thought he'd do something nice for me for one Christmas. So he actually printed up lined, ruled note paper with my name at the top. Like my own personal stationery for, junior high.
Michael, I hate to interject here, but were you misspelling your own name?
Shut up. Shut up. I was not misspelling my own name. But what happened was I had my name printed at the top of the paper. Up until then, I hadn't done it. Once I got the thing up at the top of the paper, I did a spelling test, and the teacher made us write our name on the top of that paper, regardless of whether I had printed it or not, and then I managed to misspell it.
Wait, so you did misspell your name?
On a spelling test in 6th grade, and then the teacher pointed it out to everybody in the class.
Oh, goodness.
Well, let me just say that the teacher absolutely failed there.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is I can still spell my name, and I can still write out my name. And sometimes I misspell it, and if I misspell it, it doesn't matter. Because I've already misspelled it once before. And I managed to live through 6th grade doing it. So the hell, I can manage to live through any time misspelling my name. It's like it's like why remember, Richard, when I shaved my head? Were you there when I shaved my head back in South Dakota?
I don't think so.
It was in the middle of winter, and I got the idea that I wanted to shave my head because I wanted to know what I'd look like if my hair fell out before my hair fell out, because then I wouldn't feel so bad when my hair fell out. This is how my brain works, people. You sort of get used to it. Anyway,
Michael, I did that, but I waited for summer.
Well, and I had my trench coat, and I realized that after I got done with it, I looked exactly like Uncle Fester, and it probably was not the best choice at the time. So, look,
that's kind of how your story about misspelling your name when it was written at the top of your piece of paper sort of, in a way, reminds me of basic training.
They had to spell your name in basic training?
I wrote my name 3 times a day just to eat. And by the time I was done, actually my handwriting didn't change very much by the time I got done with basic training, but it went downhill very rapidly from there. But no, the point of that is that I survived that experience of standing in line more before 6 a.m. than most people do all day. Shouting things like, "What's the spirit of the bayonet? To kill."
Well, it's pretty accurate.
Army or Marines?
Army.
National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2nd class Army.
Part-time Army.
Weekend warrior, yeah.
Nothing worse happened. Nothing yet for the rest of my days worse than that has happened to me.
Oh, you're lucky.
It changed. It gave me a perspective that I can survive.
So let me ask, nothing was worse or nothing felt worse?
Well, I mean, I have not spent a lot of time specifically sitting down to try to rank everything on an absolute scale. But I spent 8 weeks being not me, doing things I would have never done. Ultimately, I'm a pacifist. I figured that out eventually. But
Wimp.
I knew by the time I was done with my military service that I could do it. And so I guess the only thing I can say for certain is that nothing has felt that bad since.
Not even the heart attack?
You know, the heart attack was only essentially 10, 15 minutes and then a week in the hospital, which compared to 8 weeks of basic training, piece of cake.
See, the thing about basic training is they go in there deliberately as a psychological exercise to tear you down, to do things their way without question. And I mean, you've seen Full Metal Jacket. That's why that guy snapped.
You know, and honestly,
it's intentional psychological torture.
And amazingly, it sounds entirely like my junior high and high school years unmedicated.
No, it's worse.
I don't know about that.
Junior high was longer.
Huh? What'd you say, Richard?
I said I won't claim to know what you were going through. I have no way of knowing whether basic training is worse than that or not, because I don't know what you were going through.
Yeah, it gets back to like the heart attack versus 8 weeks of basic. Junior high is a lot longer than basic. So yeah, there is the possibility of longer psychological torture for someone that is younger and less prepared.
When I went to
I-
church camp, in ninth grade, I went there for a week. And then my parents picked me up after church camp and said, "We moved to Rapid City. All your stuff's down in Rapid City. Here's where we live now."
Goodness gracious.
That was light.
they moved and told you to go pick up your shit.
No, I didn't get to go back and see my friends for like another 6 months.
Oh, they left your shit.
No, they packed it all up the week I was gone and moved it all down there.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought they moved everything except your stuff. And
Oh,
it's
no,
like,
no. Everything that I had for, years and years and years.
in boxes.
No, it was all dumped. Well, it was dumped in a new room. Yeah. And Jessica's right. Everybody has their trauma. No point in having a pissing contest.
Yep.
Unless you're going to laugh about it, honey. Unless you're going to laugh about it. Because I can laugh about this stuff now. Otherwise, I wouldn't have told the story about misspelling my own name when I wrote it at the top of my spelling directly under my printed name. It wasn't even that. It was directly under it.
I'm glad you can laugh about it now because it's pretty funny.
Actually, I'm not laughing about it, but you guys are. So, see, I'm spreading the joy.
So, Michael, along with the other stuff that you mentioned, are you also dyslexic?
No.
Okay.
But why? Why would you think I am?
Following the letters that were there and getting them wrong, putting them in the wrong order.
No.
I was wondering. I thought that might be how you might have misspelled it.
No. I don't even have that as an excuse. I don't even have that. I didn't even realize it. I don't even have that as an excuse. But yeah, no, I did. What did I say? I'm like a squirrel on diet pills. Yeah, that's sort of how I function. This is why I'm the pinnacle of this group.
Well, you've got the philosophy down.
No, I'm even failing at the philosophy, obviously, from this conversation.
No, what I'm saying is you're failing.
The book's coming out in June, okay? We've got the book coming out in June. We got the kids' book coming out in June. We're still trying to meet our goal of 6 months, but I think we're going to have to push it back 2 months because we didn't get started right away. But we have a hard goal, which is not the island. So that's not a hard goal. That's a long-term goal.
That's a stretch goal.
Right, that's a stretch goal. Our hard goal is to have a page in Wikipedia within the next 6 months. That's the goal.
Okay, why wait? Or is it just the effort to put it together?
We need the book out first.
Oh, then you're going to put the book in the Wikipedia.
Well, no. I mean, yeah, because the book of abscordism, we need to have a cult. We have to have a guidebook. Once we have the guidebook for the philosophy, then we can go ahead and put the book in, and then
Well, I think that's trying to put it all together with the bow. Putting the philosophy in there, you could have your website, the website as the source of truth for the Wikipedia, and have the book be listed as to be disclosed with a dead URL or something.
Yeah, we have that already on the website. I actually stuck it up there.
Oh, okay.
But I really need an ISBN number for the copyright. So let's focus that direction.
Gotcha.
Of course.
Have you taken into account you need to send 2 copies to the Library of Congress?
For copyright? Technically you don't, but it's harder to prove in court.
Copyright, but maybe for ISBN.
Oh yeah, for an ISBN, but we need a book to do that, and we don't have the book's only half written. So once it's done, we send the book.
But then you can also put in there, as part of your authority, here's the Library of Congress index ID.
Exactly. Exactly. I am all for that. All right, everybody. We are getting towards the end of our time for this week. You have any final thoughts on everything? We'll start with Richard. Final thoughts, ideas, concepts.
Do what you can.
What?
Do what you can.
It's a good I mean, are you using that as why it's late getting your article in for this week? Is that what you're doing?
That's one of my general advice for people like Lumix who are 17 years old and facing the world. Don't worry about what you can't do. Just do what you can.
Okay. Deeply profound step pushers.
I try.
Yeah. Robert?
If you see those signs in someone's house that says live, laugh, love, just laugh.
Oh, we have a sign like that too. I'll go up on the marketplace. I don't remember what it is though. But I made one up just like that to fit into the whole philosophy, because that's toxic positivity, if anything. Live, laugh, love my ass. Tell ya. Wait, did the mic pick that? No, I meant it. Live, laugh, love my ass. Anyway. So
that sounded like a request.
Is that all you... So is that all you got, Robert? You're the newest member.
Hey, as long as you've known me, laughing has been my watchword. It's all about humor because it's the only way I've gotten by sometimes.
It's true. It's true. And sometimes you have to cry and laugh at the same times. And sometimes you have to cry. And then maybe you don't even ever laugh, but eventually you can tell the story to other people and they can laugh, so they at least get some enjoyment out of me misspelling my own name under a printed copy of my name on a spelling test. Yay, I personify this cult.
Michael, one of these days we're going to ask you how you misspelled it, and we're going to get you some chocolates with that spelling on it.
Look, honestly, all I did was reverse the A and the E in Michael, okay? So it wasn't that, or maybe I put the A where the C was. I don't remember, but it was pretty bad, actually, when I think about it. But anyway, so...
I always have to stop and think very carefully when I'm writing the word Michael to make sure I get the A and the E in the right place.
I have another story about that that's even more pathetic, but I'm not going to bring it up because we don't have enough time. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming. We're just going to bypass the rest of that comment. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to our good word for the week. Join us next week at... Do we have a time? Because this is when or should we set it up at like 3? Because we have our role-playing game playtest session at 6, right? So we probably want to set it up in the afternoon.
Probably.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at council. But next week, we're going to have it at the same time. Okay. We have a comment that says, the ending thought of Dr. Jess is next week, pick a topic and get some help writing a sermon. Okay. Gotcha. We had people show up that we didn't even know, though, so at least we pulled that off.
That sounds like a lot of coordinated work.
Well, technically we're supposed to, because I have a video coming out that talks about why we're not a cult. But it took me all night to do it last night, so it's still not down because I got to edit it. And that was supposed to lead into this session where we talked about why I'm not my cult, because we have that to base it on, and yada, yada, yada. Okay.
So we're successfully failing.
More than you could possibly imagine. More than you could possibly imagine.
So we're succeeding. Excellent.
Excellent.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for coming. If you like what we're doing here, I don't know, hit the like button if you want to, ring the bell. Obviously we don't put a lot of effort into like transparency. We're too busy to really, and we don't like pushing things down people's throats. Like and subscribe. Hit the. I can't stand doing that. People will think, thanks, Sarah. All right, people. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you guys. Have a great evening. Have a great week. Remember to come and check out our reels and shorts. We have one every day in the writing of our council because Richard turned in a really good article for this week. And last week's articles on our website were really, really good as well. So,
Oh, you liked it this week? Good.
Actually,
I was worried about that.
I haven't read yours, so I'm just saying it. But
Oh.
now that you've brought that out, in the sake of transparency, I don't freaking know. You'll have to see what Dr. Jess says. Anyway, thanks, everybody. You have a great evening. We'll see you later.
This has been a message from the Cult of Brighter Days.